Welcome to this video. Today we'll talk about functions or methods. In Java they call functions methods. Why do we need functions? Just imagine you have a large piece of code. You have a code that is too long, multiple lines, maybe 150, whatever it is. It is a large code, and you would like to make a change. So if you go into the code, you will browse up, down, left, right, until you find where you want to make the change. But if you divide it into sections, and each section performs only one thing, it becomes easy to manage. And this is why we need methods. That's one of the reasons why you need to use method or functions. The other reason for using methods, which is very important, is when you create a method, you create it once, you can call it multiple times. Every time you need it, you just call it and provide some data and parameters, and the function will do the calculation. So what are some of the functions that you will use in your code? You have seen before multiple of functions in the string class, also in the math class, there are so many functions. You have seen system.out.println is a function. Println is a function. In Java, those functions are linked to something called class. They cannot exist on their own without having a class. And you can look at a class as a container that will contain all the functions you have, plus other things, fields and variables and other things. You will study more in details classes later in another course, which object-oriented programming. So the function belongs to a class, and this is why you see the dot before calling the function, because it belongs to that class which before the dot. And you have seen number of functions, as we said. You have seen function that in the string class. The string class has so many functions that allow you to make the text uppercase, lowercase, count how many words in that string or how many characters in that string, and do many other things like adding two strings together, extracting some data from a string. So those are functions that does so many things in the string class. There are functions in the math class. As you know, you want to do mathematical calculation, you cannot write all the code yourself. There are functions already in place doing for you the calculation. So if you want to raise a number to a power, you can use POW, and there are many other functions in the math class for the sine, cosine, all the different mathematical calculations. You just basically, you put math dot and you choose the function. Each function may require, not each function in fact, many of the functions will require some parameters. You need to provide some data. For example, if you want to raise a number to the power of 2, so you need to provide the number and you need to provide 2. Or you want to raise it to the power of 3, you provide the number and then 3, and so on. So you need to give some parameters. There are some functions that do not need any parameters. You just call the function. And in this case, you can see there's only 2 brackets at the end of the function name, and there's no data inside. This is still a function. So there's a function that takes parameters, and this function that doesn't take parameters. That's easy. On the other side, there are some functions after they do the calculation, they send you back a data that you can use it and store it into another variable. And there are functions that do not return any data. We will look at those in details in the practical side of the functions. Now, so in summary, there are 2 advantages of the function or benefit of using function. One, you structure your code. You create sections, and each section has a specific purpose. And the other one is you can reuse your function. You create it once and you reuse it multiple times. So far we discussed the built-in function that's already available in Java programming language. And there are huge number of functions in Java, which are already there, and each one belongs to a class, as we said. Now, what if you want to create your own functions for different purposes? Why I need to do that? So assume I have a code that asks the user to enter some data, do some calculation on that data or processing, and then produce the outcome. A code like this one can be divided to 3 parts, or 3 methods or functions. One method that allows the user to enter the data. So the user can enter the data and it's stored into variables. Another method that does the calculation. Calculate, every time you want a calculation, you just call that function. It will do the calculation. And another one displays the result. So you can divide your code into, say, 3 methods or functions. The advantage of that, if you want the user to enter data, and then you want again to enter another data, you just call the function again. So the function is there. You can call it anytime. You created it once, and you call it multiple times. We will see in the practical side how we create those functions and how we call them after we create them. And that's very important to know. Good. So now we have seen functions. You have seen there are 2 types of functions. There is a built-in function, which already in Java, and there are user-defined functions, which you created based on your needs. And those functions, each one has a unique purpose or functionality. This is why they call it function or method. So it performs certain function. One is entering data, one is calculating, one may be visualizing the result on the screen, one may be checking some different processes. So each one has a specific purpose, and the function belongs to a class. And you want to call it, you create an object of that class, then you use dot, and then the function you need, and you supply the parameters that needed. Thank you for watching this video.